Before we start, how is this pronounced?
Griekse YS video game series.
Is video game series.
Wise video game series.
Wise video game series.
Is video game series.
I will go with ease.
YS video game series.
So I always wanted to play the Ease series. It looked interesting, especially the later games. And as far as my research goes, most games have a contained story. But there are recurring characters, themes and references, so I would miss out if I did not play the games that came before. I want to play all of this series, and maybe edit them later together on this channel. So my goal for this video and the later ones will be a watchable synopsis with criticism, practically like with most story games I made a video about, so that fits. I also researched that not all titles are considered canon. To make this not confusing, I will only play the canon games, and will later add the non-canon separately, but no promises. It's also a bit confusing, so I will add a list in the description. I picked Ys Chronicles as the art style for the first game. Ys 1, Ancient Ys Vanished, was developed by Nihon Falcom in 1987. In an interview, Kondo Toshihiro, the CEO and producer of Ys, said that the development of future Ys titles was heavily influenced by Ys 1 and 2, especially the heroine aspect of a certain character we will come to later in the story, and the ending. Ys 1 was certainly influential, and often when discussing old games, there are certain opinions that view the oldest or the first games within a series as the best. There are certainly people that think Demon's Souls is the best of the Soulsborne series, and that the original Mario is the best one. This is probably because people use the wrong terminology. When you ask those people for their reasons, it's usually something along the lines of that those games established something when there was nothing else, and that it is way more impressive than just copying different elements. Another argument is that without the first games, subsequent ones wouldn't really exist. While these arguments are correct, they don't describe the quality of the games. Most people seem to confuse quality with historical importance. Ys 1 is without a doubt historical important. It was one of the few games that had real-time combat while others only had turn-based, and it was one of the two games that introduced regenerating health. The other one was Hydlite. But is Ys 1 good from today's perspective? No, I don't think so. But I leave this for the conclusion, which I will, without a doubt, make much shorter than it should be. For combat, Ys uses the bumper system, which is exactly like it sounds. You bump into the enemy. If you hit him frontal, you and the enemy take damage. If you are slightly off, then only the enemy will take a hit. It's very simple and makes the combat at least short and gives a certain flow. It reminds me of when I was a child and played with other kids on the playground. We had these toy cars and just hit each other's car, with the non-verbal made rule that whoever hurts his hand first loses. Equipment and level system is so streamlined that just naming it gives the understanding of how it's done in the game. Let's go into the story. What we can get from this intro is that our character, Idle Kristen, loved adventure stories and set out to be an adventurer. This seems to be his first adventure, based on how young and experienced he is. He shipwrecks on the island of Isteria, in the small port town of Barbado, and is saved by Dr. Pluto and his nurse. We talk with the citizens and it appears that Isteria traded in silver. But 6 months ago, demons appeared and a giant storm wall started surrounding the island. The storm wall destroyed multiple full vessels. This also confirms that Adol Kristen is a crazy motherfucker. On his first adventure, he sets out to the island that cannot be accessed from the outside and killed everyone who tried. That's his first pick. He miraculously survived. The town is pretty chill despite the fact that demons are constantly attacking. We also learned that there are 2 other settlements, Minea, the largest city with a wall, and Sepik, a mountain village. You can talk with all characters, but most have nothing to say. I decide to head out of town. Apparently you can get a sword, which you absolutely need if you talk with each citizen. I found this out too late. Instead I ignored every enemy and ran into Minea, and bought a sword with the money I got on hand. In Minea, most characters will direct us to a fortune teller. And there's also a girl who searches for a harmonica, but she's not important right now. There's also a side quest. In the tavern, a man searches for a sapphire ring, which is for his wife. You literally just go into the only generous store in town, buy the ring, and give it to him, who tells you he lost it. We meet the fortune teller Sarah. She tells us about the ancient kingdom of Ys, which is described in 6 books we must find. Ys fell, as we find out, due to a demon crisis, not unlike the one we are facing right now. Sarah directs us to Sepik village, where we find her aunt Jeba, who tells us to head into the shrine to find the book of Ys. We delve into it and find the first boss. We go deeper and meet a girl held prisoner. Her name is Fina, and she is the character Kendo was referring to when he said that most heroines are inspired by her in subsequent games. We have to escort her out, which is a task more tedious than it should be. There are items called wings. You can buy them and they teleport you to the nearest town. Giving her one should be an option, but it isn't. It's far from the worst escort mission. As I'm writing this, I have already played Ys 2 and there's one much worse. I really wonder why in more than 35 years, developers did not learn that players don't like escort missions. You never see any praise for these, and I never heard someone say, "Remember that escort mission? I wish I could play it again." In terms of Ys, it's even worse, because this was added later, when this game got remastered. Anyway, we bring her to Jeba where she collapses. We still have to find the book, so we go to the shrine again. Fina mentioned someone with a black mask. The local thieves, who are just chilling in the mountains, also mentioned him. He stole all the silver on the island, even the armor and shield. He didn't keep them but just placed them both in random chests along the way, like a squirrel, which sounds more like a prank you play instead of a scheme. But there is a solid reason for this. We defeat the second boss and obtain the first book of Ys. Upon our return from the shrine, we see that Fina got better. At one point in the quest line, we have to leave the village and return to get a quest. This is just bonkers quest design. For now, we have to bring the book to Sarah, which got murdered. An old man gives us another book of Ys, which Sarah had. We return to Jeba with the bad news. After this we head into the mines, and I had a lot of trouble with this vampire boss. You can almost not damage him if you don't own the silver sword, which you find in a convoluted way. First you find the harmonica that Rhea misses. She plays a tune for you and then you are able to understand the giant trees. And the second one gives you the sword. Now we go back to the vampire and are able to kill him. Now comes the part where we have to enter Sepik village twice in order to progress. I know I said that already, but I got stuck because of this and I'm so pissed I want to point it out more than once. She directs us to the thieves and they let us pass into the Dam Tower, a giant maze that takes a lot of time to get through. Surprisingly, there are some characters and you talk with them more than with anyone else who came before. We meet Gemma and Dogi, who saves us. As far as my research goes, Dogi will be returning in many of the Ys games, and I sure hope he is not pronounced Doggy. He punches whole walls down to save us. After a lot of puzzles that are mainly just obtaining items and finding the right path, we finally meet Dark Fact, brother of Fake News. This boss took me a lot of time and is the reason I played Ys 2 on easy. I usually like my games a bit harder, but that is only the case if I enjoy the combat. If I don't, then it's just prolonged torture. And the combat in Ys is simple and feels almost random. We beat Dark Fact with the help of the Silver Sword. According to the game, he has a special armor made from Claria, which can only be beaten by the Silver Sword. Claria is mentioned in the Book of Ys, and I guess now after beating Dark Fact, it is the best time to speak about the lore. When I tried to find out which games to play in the series, I could not help to find out that Ys is loved for the story and lore. This is not present in Ys 1. I mean, there is lore, but it's typical high fantasy stuff, with prophecy and all the other tropes. A long time ago there was the land of Ys, and they created Claria, a extremely powerful material. Ys was governed by 2 goddesses and 6 priests. One of the priests, named Fact, betrayed the others and joined the demons that appeared. The country of Ys fell. At the end of the credits we can actually see Ys. It's a giant floating island and was former part of Hysteria. I don't think those two have a deeper meaning. Ys and Hysteria like hysteria. It's striking that both names form a word, but nothing in the game is in any way related to Hysteria. Quite the opposite actually. Also that would not work in Japanese, so it's probably a coincidence. Sadly in Ys 1 there is not much story to go into, and the only good thing I can say about the combat is that it's fast. It is hard to recommend playing Ys. Many characters just give you lore exposition. It's hard to relate to any of these people, because even they don't seem intimidated by the demons. Fina is probably the most enjoyable character, and you don't talk to her much. At this point it's absolutely clear that Fina and Rhea are the 2 goddesses. I mean, even in the intro it's pretty clear. Before we headed to the tower, Fina told us that she felt at peace in the town, and liked the people who lived there. For now, Adol Kristen is transported to the land of Ys. Adol Kristen and my humble self will return for Ys 2. Farewell.